Welcome back. In this tutorial, we're going to get a little overview of GarageBand and talk a little bit about how to start recording, just doing a plain audio recording in GarageBand. So, first thing, I need to get GarageBand started. So I need my Finder up. Okay, so there is my Finder, and I can look in the Applications directory and go ahead and scroll down to GarageBand. So GarageBand is a audio editing, audio creating, music editing, music creating program with a huge amount of capabilities. We're going to use it just to create a simple audio podcast. So when GarageBand opens up, it wants me to tell it what I want to do. So I'm going to start a new project over here on the left, and then it's going to ask me what kind of project would I like to do. I'm going to choose podcast and click on the choose button. Alright, let me just give it a little title here. So this is going to save my project file, which is a file, its extension will be .band. This is kind of my working copy, so as I do file save, while I'm working on this, I'll have a copy that I could reopen at any time, but it is not the file that I'll share. Okay, I'm going to click Create. Now, a couple of things about the interface here. A few things got turned on that we want to know about, and then we'll clear them up. So first and foremost, these tracks that came up here kind of in the upper left-hand corner. So because I chose podcast, I got this podcast track. That's actually a track to put artwork in, and we'll get to that later. Then it put a few tracks in by default here. It put a male voice track, a female voice track, and a jingles track. Now, if it's going to be me recording, I don't need this female voice track. So I'm just going to select it. You can see it sort of highlights in blue, and go up to track and delete. So I won't need that. I'll record my voice onto the male track. And if I have any music, a little intro music or music at the end, I'll use this jingles track to hold that music. Okay, so those are sort of the tracks, and we'll talk about these little controls and all these little buttons that come in here. But this is where we'll actually put our podcast together. Here's where we're going to arrange the different clips that we want to be part of our program. All right, this right-hand column over here, this big panel, it's called the media browser, and this is the tool that allows me to access content that I've stored in other iLife products. If I have audio that I want to use, I would have put it into iTunes, and I can access my iTunes account here and use music from iTunes inside of a GarageBand project. Same with photos. These photos are photos that I've stored inside of iPhoto. So if I need to go get a copy of one of these and I want to use it in a podcast, then I can access that, as well as movies. If I've created a movie and I want to do some voiceover work or add some soundtrack to it, I can pull in a movie that I've been working on in iMovie, pull it right into GarageBand and add the soundtrack. This panel, though, sometimes I would like it to go away when I don't need it, and that's what these three little buttons are here along the bottom. That far right hand one is the media browser button. So when I click on that, that hides or shows it. So I'm going to hide it. So I'll come back to that when I need content. The other buttons here are, I've got an information button. And when I click on that, I see information about these tracks. So right now I've got this male voice track selected, and it's showing me the settings for that track, just what it's been set, so that these settings are so that when I record, it makes a male voice sound a little bit better. Same thing with the jingles track. You can see there's no effects going there, so it's just a plain track. And the podcast track shows the information about the podcast. So if I wanted to change any of this, titles, artist, composer, I wanted to put a parental advisory on here that it was clean, and I could even type in a description of what I'm going to record. Okay, and I just click here to slide that over. There is one more button over there. which is the loop browser button, the little eyeball symbol. When I click on that, it opens up the panel that lets me access all the music loops that are available to me to drag in and make part of my my podcast. So lots of music, lots of short little music clips here, music loops, and soundtracks. So you can see here these are stingers, all effects. You can see these are some cartoon sounds. You can't hear that, but I'm getting the boing boing sound. A bunch of sound effects as well. So if I did need some sound effects, spaceship siren. Okay, gotta turn that off. Anyway, so that allows me to bring in some existing loops that just sort of come with GarageBand. I'm going to toggle that off. Okay, so just quick, let me do a demonstration here of how I might record when I'm ready to record. I'll just do a little test, and in the next tutorial I'll actually record from my script and work on putting the program together. Okay, so I want to record onto the male voice track. Now, if I'm a woman and I record on the male voice track, it does not make my voice sound like wouldn't make my voice sound like a male. Or if it was me recording and I recorded onto the female voice track, it's not a special effect. This track has just been kind of optimized so that when I record, it makes my voice sound a little bit better. So it's not really that big of a deal. The settings aren't that big of a deal. So when I select this track, you'll notice this red button comes up, which means that this track is ready for me to record on. And I can see the little levels meter happening here. So if I want to record on this, all I have to do is come down to this red record button near the bottom, and when I click on that, GarageBand will start recording what's coming in through the microphone. And I'll see the waveform happening up here where my tracks are, and I'll also see a bigger version of the same waveforms happening down here in the audio region track. This is kind of my editor down here where gives me a sort of a zoomed up view to do editing. Alright, so I'm going to click record. When I'm done, I'm going to stop recording, and I also need to stop my playhead. The playhead is this red line that you can see there. By default, when I click recording, the playhead starts, but when I stop recording, it doesn't necessarily stop the playhead, so I'll have to click this stop button. Alright, so let's give it a try. Alright, so I've got my playhead right at the start of the track. The track I want to record on is selected. I can see the levels meter working, which means GarageBand is recognizing my microphone, and I'm just going to click record. This is a test. It's a test 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you can see that I'm seeing this waveform, which means that GarageBand is recording my voice. Now watch what happens. When I click the record button again, it stops the recording, but the playhead is still going. So I need to click that stop button there. Now, one of the keyboard shortcuts that is really handy here inside of GarageBand is the space bar. So the space bar on your keyboard there is a way to start and stop the playhead. Instead of me having to click down here, I can just do the space bar and it starts playing, and the space bar and it stops playing. This first button here is a back to the start. You can see it says go to the beginning. So I click that and it jumps me right back to the very front. These two double arrow ones just move the playhead a bit at a time. Okay. If I just need to slide it along a little bit. I can also just drag the playhead and find a region. And then I click the spacebar and it starts to play. Okay, so I've recorded this one clip up here. You can see it up on the track. And if I wanted to slide it down, like I say, oh, you know, I'd like this to start a little bit later in my program because maybe in front here I want to put a little music in. So I can move that down a bit to leave space for the music. And it moves down here as well. Now, if I want to edit this track down here a bit, like I, made a mistake here at the end, all I have to do is click and drag, highlight the part that I want to remove. When I press the spacebar or when I press play, it just plays that, whatever I've selected, it's playing that little piece. So if I came in here and said, gosh, it looks like I made a mistake right here, I could highlight it, just clicking and dragging across it. And as I hit the space bar, it just plays that over and over again. Okay, if I wanted to select more or less of this, I can get my cursor, whoops, right in there. That moved that piece. Let me undo that. We'll do that a little different way in a minute. So that's my selection tool. Okay, and here's where I do the selecting. So just basically, I may have to remove some pieces out, so I can highlight it, press delete, or I might have to come up and do edit and delete, and that piece you saw was removed. Same thing if I had made a mistake in the middle here, I could highlight it, either press delete on my keyboard, and you can see it went away, or if I prefer, I can come up and do edit, delete, and that piece will go away. And see, now there's a gap in the middle where I've removed that, and I might need to position that to make sure it's flush and I don't have dead air in there. So really basic editing here, and not too bad. So these tracks up here at the top, this is where I can move these clips around if I need to, change when in the timeline they happen, and down here is the spot where I can edit what I've recorded to delete stuff if I need to delete this last piece out. I can take that little bit out. Okay, in the next tutorial I'm going to record from my script.